for us to keep any untowards.
Yes.
And we all, except for Dan, are watching it on YouTube. So just there we go, we're live. Yay! I'm so excited. Um, we also have some other folks who are going to pop in perhaps and join us, so that should be fun. Um, I'm just excited to get this party started. Um, I didn't get to watch the game on the 11th, but I was watching the highlights right now from both of the games. And oh my God. First of all, that game one, Dan, you and I were talking about it this week. Was it this week, last week when we did this week? And
Yeah,
you mentioned something that really stood out to me as I was watching the highlights, in that, Ottawa getting those power play goals is a game changer. Captain Brianne Jenner getting that first power play goal in game one and then tying it in game two. Is Montreal getting bad calls, Dan?
that's what I heard from my inside sources. We're complaining that perhaps there could have been a call or two that went their way to give them an extra power play. And they're so dangerous on the power play that if you give them the opportunity, then yeah, most of the time they're going to score.
Yeah, they are really great on the power play. Um, but I don't know. I told you this week that I was rooting for Ottawa, and I was going for the underdog. But I love me some MPP. So I really do. She's just so fun to watch. And as I was like looking through the highlights, of course I found her mic'd up from 4 months ago. She did a mic'd up and she is hilarious. Oh my gosh. Typical hockey player. Chirping, dorky, funny, messing with her teammates. They love her. They love her.
She is one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. I've
Oh,
had the opportunity to go to her and Carolyn Willette, who used to be on the Canadian women's hockey team, run an adult camp in Montreal. And it's mostly women, and they just the women, everybody that comes there loves it. And Laura Stacy is there, Poulin, Oulette, Julie Chu,
mhm.
and they all treat us like we're their teammates on a regular team. And when we're competing in drills, Stacy will be on one side and Poulin will be on the other, and they both want us to win so badly. And if they lose, then they're really bummed too. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And she's just the most amazing person.
That is so cool. So you're our resident Canadian and dude in the mix today. So, well, that's awesome. It's so funny. I just noticed that. You're used to it though with this group. Like, I know you're used to it. What's it like having a bunch of women's hockey teams to choose from to watch? We're really excited, that we have the Minnesota and we have the East Coast teams. And now we just got the two West Coast teams announced, Vancouver and Seattle. But what's it like to just have a abundance of women's hockey in Toronto?
It's amazing for me to see the evolution of the game and how much it's grown. I started following it in 2015 in Montreal. And at the time, I really didn't have any idea that there was a professional women's league, the Canadian Women's Hockey League. Kind of stumbled across them. And the first game I went to, we paid like $15 to sit in an arena with 500 fans. And it was Calgary and Montreal, and it was 80% Olympians, a lot of them that are still playing now. Ambrose and Poulin and Mashmeyer and Wickenheiser and Ouellette and Chu and like all of these future
So
Hall of
cool.
Famers that we were watching. And I sat up near the glass because I can't afford to go and sit at an NHL rink and sit by the glass. So I'm sitting there behind I think Mashmeyer was playing that game. And it was just, it blew my mind that I had that access to these incredible athletes. And I had had no idea prior to that that this league existed. And I thought I got to do something to help out, raise awareness. So been trying to do that since. And last year, Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, we
Mm,
went from like, so I was in Montreal, came back to Toronto, volunteered with the Furies. We had a hard time getting 250 fans in the building. And then what is it, like 7 years later, we filled Scotiabank
that's
Arena
so
in
cool.
Toronto. And
That's
it's just
amazing.
like we like all of the people that have been around women's hockey, they we knew that if people had a chance to see it, that they would come out and that they wanted to support women's hockey and that the product was great and the athletes were great and they're such great ambassadors for the game. And just to see that transpire and be in the building, it just, I mean, even for I was at the first PWHL game for Toronto and New York and standing in line on College Street in Toronto, and there was a lineup of like 2,000 people waiting to get in, and I just goosebumps, and it's, I mean, it's such a positive environment, and now we're out to the West Coast, and I'm so happy that Vancouver and Seattle both get an opportunity to go and have their own franchises and cheer on those players. It's really exciting.
I'm jealous. You know, as you were talking, I realized that we didn't even do introductions. I meant to introduce like we did introductions before we went live and now we're live. So and we have one person watching. So to our one person, let's do some introductions. I'm Renee, founder and executive director of Black Girl Hockey Club. Today I just want everybody to have a good time, honestly. But you know, I think that I am going to be a Seattle fan, but Toronto holds my heart. I'm a big Toronto fan, but tonight I'm kind of just enjoying not being completely emotionally invested in who wins or loses. I'm really excited to watch some of our Olympians play. That's my joy is, you know, to see MPP. And just to kind of, and you know, Michaela Grant-Mentis is playing. And so I'm really excited. I love watching the goalies. I'm a huge ARD fan, not just because her name's Renee, but also, you know, she was really fun to watch in the Olympics. And so I'm just really excited to be able to be here tonight and hang out with you guys and watch some hockey. And so we also have Dan Harbridge, from at Women's Hockey Cards on Instagram. He talked a little bit about his advocate advocation. Oh, I can't think of the word. I have no sleep. Talked a little bit about his love of hockey and how he advocates for women in sports in a variety of ways besides just volunteering with Black Girl Hockey Club. He also has the Instagram account Women's Hockey Cards. If you're not following them, take a follow. And Dan, so who are you rooting for tonight? Let's see your jersey. I already seen it. You showed it to me.
I'm wearing my Toronto jersey, but like I said, the first team that I followed in women's hockey was Montreal, the Canadiens at the time, and they're a very close second to me. I love their players, and yeah,
Montreal got a soft spot in your heart for that city and
100%.
that team. I know you
Yeah,
do. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Stan. I'm really excited that you're here. We've also got Alicia Crank, Alicia from Women's Pro Hockey Seattle. Um,
Hello.
so glad that you could be here. We're really, really excited about the announcement. I know, like, I didn't forget about Vancouver, but there's just something, you know, I love Seattle. I love
Yeah.
the city. I love the hockey scene there. And women's pro hockey has been such a huge part of that
Mhm.
in Seattle. I know we were kind of just trying to figure out when we all met. And I met you in person a few years ago when Black Girl Hockey Club came up to Seattle for the very first time. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the future.
Yes.
It's because now we've got a WoHo team, an hour plane ride from me. I'm so excited.
Yes. West Coast, we've been waiting for this. Seattle's been waiting for this for so long. The campaign Women's Pro Hockey Seattle is about 5.5 years old. And I was one of the first ambassadors that came on. Zoe Harris reached out. It's like, yes, please. And it's just been growing like wildfire. And so, when the takeover tour came, we rented out some suites. We had everyone coming through. I think we were the first ones to kick it off. So it was, just the energy was amazing that entire weekend. And I'm gonna tell you, fun fact, I was actually up in Whistler last week. So I was in Canada watching some of these games. And, I had my PWHL cap on. It was rocking the thing, and so it was just a lot of fun, and just seeing the energy across the border, at the
Yeah.
same time. And we're instituting a rivalry right now.
Yes,
We're calling it the
definitely.
I-5 rivalry because it's right along I-5 between Vancouver and Seattle. So we're gonna make something happen. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And I am rooting for Minnesota, my Frost.
We see it. It's
Got my
right there.
jersey. And like you, Renee, I'm a goalie person. So, I love ARD. I've been watching Gwyneth in this series as well. Just their number of saves. They've been, man, that game with 4 overtimes. Oh my God. I'm too old for that many overtimes.
Right?
It was amazing. It was amazing. I loved it, but I was like, we can't do that all the time. Of
And
course. So Maddie Rooney is my person now as far as goalies go. So I'm just
oh, I love Maddie.
yeah, so I'm hoping for, a repeat when it comes to the finals. We'll see. But I'm gonna also tell you something else too. Even though I had a feeling Seattle was going to be named as a team, but regardless, I already had purchased my airline ticket to go to Ottawa to go to the draft. So I was going to
Oh,
the draft
yeah.
one way or the other. So I have my ticket. I am ready. So now I know there's going to be more reason to be there, but I was already planning and had my ticket booked. So I'm ready to
That's
go.
gonna be so much fun,
It's going to be so
Alicia.
much fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I'm so glad that you could join us today. You give us some of your time
Yeah,
and your expertise. I'm watching this game on another screen
me
here.
too.
Just seeing Montreal hustling. It's
Mhm.
it's always hard whenever the teams are kind of low-key wearing the same colors. I get a little confused, but I wouldn't expect a Montreal team to wear anything else than what they've got going on anyways. And low key, I love the Montreal logo. It's my favorite one
Yes, it
out of
is.
all of them.
Same.
It
Yeah,
is
Same.
so
yeah,
pretty.
same.
It's pretty dope. The
Yeah.
colors are great too.
Yeah.
So pretty. It's very like subtle and sophisticated.
And I don't know if it's because of the logo, but when we did the takeover tour here, obviously it was, a couple of, it was Montreal and Boston.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mm.
yes. Was it?
it was the fleet. Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh
but
yeah.
Fleet.
I was so the number of Montreal jerseys that were floating around Seattle was astounding.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
so there's a lot of men and women. So it's like there's
Yeah.
a lot of people that are already gravitating to Montreal. So it was an interesting thing to see.
It's such a pretty jersey, honestly. I wasn't sure how I liked the kind of off-white cream.
Yeah, but once you saw it in person, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
this is
it's
good.
very sophisticated. Like
Yeah.
I have so many jerseys in my closet, and
Oh
the
yeah.
other day I was like, I'm gonna wear one out just to wear it. Not going to a game. And then I put it on and I was like, no,
Wear
I can't
it.
do it. It's just not my style at all. But I feel like this one would be kind of, you could dress it up a little. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I can
I'm
see
feeling
that.
that. Uh-oh, somebody looks pissed. Okay, who else we got on the call? We've got Anastasia Hardin from Jersey. Have you
Oh,
been to
Jersey.
a women's hockey game out there?
I have. So I was actually going to say, as y'all were talking, I was like, usually I'm really jealous because I'm like, "Ugh, I wish I was in Canada or I
Yeah.
wish I was on the West Coast." So when the Sirens came over to Newark to the Rock Prudential Center, it was so awesome. It was really cool to be able to go see them. And I was obviously selfishly excited about the move because they're closer to me. And I normally go there for Devils games. So just like you, Dan, I had the chance to like get incredible seats. And at first I was excited about that, but I was way, way more excited about the folks that were in the crowd. You just see just like the culture, even though it's not where I would want it to be yet, right? Like we're not getting the same attendance out here that you might get in a Montreal or honestly anywhere else, but the culture is just so cool. I was able to bring, I work with like young folks, so I was able to bring some of my students to the game too, which has been really cool. Um, I was there for one of the games that Soroya came to, which was really, really dope. So it's just been really fun watching that in a place where there isn't a huge hockey culture, but just seeing like new folks getting exposed to the game. A lot of the students that I brought have never seen a hockey game, and so the fact the first game that they're seeing is a Sirens game is just like incredible. So I've been really pumped. Obviously, tonight they're not there yet, but I think if I had to choose like my second team, I think it would be Montreal. So
Really?
yeah, yeah. They're pretty cool. And in my mind I'm like, oh, if I was gonna live somewhere else, I could see myself living in Montreal. Um, so that would probably have to be my second choice.
I feel like Montreal and Toronto, the Scepters, are the most Olympic of the teams. I don't know. There's something about having Sarah Nurse, you know,
I was gonna say is it's
and having
right.
MPP like on the team that just elevates it
Yeah.
to me, you know?
Yeah.
And the same, I mean, same thing with Hillary on, is she on Boston?
Yeah.
On the fleet, and now we've got Sophie going to the working towards the Olympics on the Minnesota Frost, go BGHC, go Sophie, who sits on our board of directors for US and for Canada. So it's really cool to see like that's honestly that's my favorite thing is being able to see this high level talent at
Yeah.
at league level,
Yeah.
because we've got, and if you know me from like my conversations about women's hockey in the last 10 years, I've been so against one league. I've just been like, it's too bougie, like not having like so many Olympic players in such a concentrated space is not fair to some of our college graduates. I am so on board after 2 years of this league. I'm just like, yeah, I know what I said. I know what I used to say. I am for it now. Yeah, I changed
You're
my
a
mind.
woman and thus you have the right to change your mind.
Thank you. Thank you. Because this shit is so fun
Absolutely.
to watch.
It
I
really
got
is.
to go see the rivalry series before the leagues were league in. But I have not got to see one of the PWHL games in person. Us here in California, Rochelle Taylor, also BGHC board member. Thank you so much for being here. We're both in California. Have you been to a women's hockey game? Have you got to experience any of this Olympic talent in person?
Only when I went with you to the rivalry series. That's it. No, we
That's
have
it,
not had
right?
the pleasure of the
Yeah.
PWHL. It has not made it into our state. It's a very large state. There's plenty of options. I feel like they could come down here.
They did do San
I'm looking
Jose.
forward to Seattle.
They
Well, I was
did do
going to say,
San
where
Jose.
Okay.
I think, are you both in Southern California or
Yeah,
where?
we're both in Southern
Yeah, which is
California. They
it's a
did do
different
San
state than
Jose.
Northern
Oh no, no,
California.
I was
Yeah,
in Silicon Valley for 18 years. I was going to Sharks games before
yeah,
I came up here. So yeah.
yeah. But not Kings games, which is where we are, way
Right.
down south. Yeah. So it's not easy, right? To get to
No.
a
Yeah, it's a
WoHo.
bit of a drive.
Yeah.
But to your point though, that flight to Seattle from where you are, that's doable. That's a nice little overnight situation.
Yes, it really, really is. When we went up there, I had never gone to Seattle before I went and met you,
Mhm.
Alicia and Rochelle. You were up there, and I was so surprised how quick the flight was, how easy it was. I didn't even take a nap like I usually do
Yeah.
on a plane. I was just raring and ready to go. So I'm looking forward to getting up there. Rochelle, road trip? Road
We
trip?
got you.
Oh, yeah, no, we're going. As somebody who used to live in Seattle, that is automatically going to be my favorite team. So there's no way that it can't be.
I'm gonna
And
extend the
so,
invitation right now. The first home game that we have in Seattle, you need to come up because we're planning something big. We're going to get together, Women's Pro Hockey Seattle. We're going to have a situation going. We're going to make this work. Circling Seattle Sports, we're bringing that all together. So, Black Girl Hockey Club needs to come and
Yes.
join us for that first inaugural game. Your invitation is official.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That sounds
Date to be
amazing.
determined, but you're coming.
BGHC takes Seattle
Yeah.
and women's hockey. I honestly, I'm wondering like, do you have plans to keep it going and go up to
Oh,
Vancouver?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
It's
we're
not
working
too
we're working
far.
on
How
all
far
the
is it?
aspects. We want to have our own like seating area for each game. Oh no, the front office at Oakview Group and the Kraken are annoyed with me right now because I'm
Oh
like,
my
I need
gosh.
to know what this situation is going to be. What I want a suite. We want something that we can have for the whole season so that we can continuously bring fans and supporters for that. So we'll always have a space during those games. So once that gets ironed out, you will be the second to know. And like, and know that
The second.
that is an open invitation to come and join us for the home games we have here, at this inaugural season.
All right, you heard it here first,
You
Black
heard
Girl
it here.
We're taking over Seattle. Any idea what the name's gonna be? Any guesses?
No, I mean, there's some names floating around. Like I was telling Rochelle in the comments that ideally we would have loved the sirens because Starbucks and the siren.
Yep,
So
all that.
Louis, New York,
Part of me thinks New York and them just took it for that reason. They were like, you know
I
what?
feel the
We're gonna
spike
take this.
already. So that would have been perfect. Plus, corporate partnership would have been kind of cool with that too. So, there's a whole thing here called the Seattle Freeze, which is an actual real thing that happens out here as far as people being not so interpersonal with one another. So freeze was kind of brought up, but people say it's too close to the frost.
Mm,
So it's like, okay. So I personally am leaning towards tsunami.
ooh.
That's a
And at
good
first I
one.
wasn't sold because I'm still on that freeze tip, but Paul Buxton, one of our longtime guys out here that's a diehard hockey fan. He showed up to the press conference with the release the Kraken had on, but he had released the tsunami. And first I was like, I don't like it. But he's like, Alicia, think about the women's sports teams out here, professional teams out here. We got the Storm, Seattle Storm. We had the Seattle Rain. So Storm, Rain,
Storm,
Tsunami.
rain,
And I
tsunami.
was like,
I kind of like that,
I
Alicia.
kind of like it.
You got
That
So
would
something
that would
there.
make a really cool logo.
wouldn't it? And I
Yeah.
had some friends. Shout out to Brian, who's probably watching. He's a graphics person. He's already starting to work on different iterations. So yeah, so I am personally somewhere between freeze and tsunami. I could do both, but we'll see. I don't know what the process is for naming the teams at all because Vancouver's going to be going through the same thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Do we have a say in this?
I'm,
Do I have
I'm
a say?
trying to find out, girl. I'm trying to
I
find
Who can I tell this idea to? I love it. I
We
love
are
yeah,
it.
we need
pushing,
we
the
need to get the
campaign is
fans.
pushing these names. We want this. We've been
Yeah.
sending names over to Amy Shear. We've been sending them like, here.
If you create the logo too, get a
Yeah,
nice logo and just start circulating it. They'll be like,
right?
People
So,
already
you
love
know,
it, you
we
know?
know how to do a groundswell campaign here.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
do.
Yeah, we do. So, we did it with the Kraken. We're doing it with this, and hopefully the Sonics will be next. So we'll see what happens.
Battle Sonics.
We're trying to bring them Sonics back. We're working.
My goodness. Okay, I am super excited for Black Girl Hockey Club coming up to Seattle. It's
But
been a
to
while.
reiterate, open invitation.
Open invitation, but open invitation, but opening
Yes, absolutely
opening
opening
night.
night.
Yep. I love that idea. So
Yeah,
fun.
it's going to be a party. We're going to make something happen.
Of course, it's always a
But yeah,
party.
right. Frost versus freeze. That would be, oh my God. Right?
That'd be pretty wild.
The frost versus the
So
freeze.
yeah.
I don't know. People, hockey fans gonna be confused.
Yeah.
I would be
It'll be all
confused.
right. It'll
I'm
be
confused. I'm a little confused. No, I love that idea.
And I have to say for the record too, where I'll get in trouble as a native Detroiter, that I'm hoping the next round of expansion that Detroit gets a team.
Right?
Yeah.
So we were talking about that, huh, Dan? About who we thought might
I
get the
heard I heard a
team.
lot of people from Detroit. I saw in like the comments on
Yeah.
Instagram and social media. I think people are happy and they understand why there needs to be
Yeah.
representation on the West Coast to
Yeah.
kind of build the fan bases. But well, I
Right.
think a lot of Detroit people were disappointed that they didn't get a team.
And
Hopefully
I
in
and I
the
feel
next
it.
round. Yeah.
But so I'm hoping next round Detroit is on that short list for the next expansion. But I am ecstatic that Seattle was picked with Vancouver.
Were you at that announcement in
Oh
Seattle?
yes.
Yeah, what was that
I
like?
It was, oh my gosh. We get there and we got the invitation to go, and I'm thinking it's gonna be all these people, and it was. But there were so many of us, especially us ambassadors, were there with our jerseys on. I mean, it was like a sea of our supporters, youth, the UW women's hockey. It was a party. And shout out to the folks at Oakview Group and the Kraken, because we had it at Climate Pledge Arena. You think you're coming in, it's 11 o'clock for the press conference. They had like a buffet spread out for us. They had like a breakfast thing, then something that was a little heavier, and all the media was there. It felt like a homecoming, to be honest. It didn't
Amazing.
it felt like it's people that have always been around, whether it's with the Kraken or other things that happen at Climate Pledge or just in the sports arena, in general. So it was almost kind of like a little class reunion, if you will. Like we were just all there to hang out and but get all this news together.
I love
And
that.
and it
It
was just a
hasn't
lot
been
of fun.
easy to build that community in Seattle, but in the last, 6 or 7 years, the women's just hockey in general
Yeah.
has just exploded in that town. And I mean, not to pump our own brakes, but BGHC has one of our favorite scholarship,
I was gonna bring up May. Yeah.
Mayeli Glanzer, young black girl hockey player who has just grown in the game in that city.
Mm-hmm.
It's been so fun to watch her journey
Yeah.
um, through hockey and the confidence that she's gained, the people that she's met. I mean,
Yes.
I get text messages from her parents sometimes when they're out in the world doing hockey things. And I remember at one, Saturday afternoon, getting a text with Mayeli and the whole USA women's hockey team
Uh-huh.
at
I was
Climate
like,
Pledge
no big
Arena.
deal. Just hanging
No
out
big
with my friend.
deal. Just hanging out with other, important women's hockey players.
And you
Uh,
should have seen her at the press con. I mean, I remember the first time I met her years ago, and it was like, she's young, so she's trying to get her footing and kind of, get used to people. She worked that whole situation.
yes.
She
Yes.
was like,
She
I know
sure
one had to go,
does.
no one had to go take her anywhere to introduce her to people. She was just on it. She was just like, uh-huh, yep, yep, uh-huh, this. And I'm just like, okay, girl, okay. I love this. So it was just a lot. It was just a great time. it was family, it was friends, it was a celebration. You know, we had folks from the Storm, the Seattle Storm were there to be part of the introduction and bringing the team in. And again, I would say two things stood out to me. One professional, one personal. Professional was I really appreciated how the fact that as an arena like Climate Pledge, which is very state of the art, is the home to this quote unquote startup team, right? So to have now two women's teams be the home there, being the Storm and now this PWHL team, I think speaks volumes. Because there's a lot of people that, oh, they want to start them all in the smaller arenas, which is nothing wrong with the smaller arenas. But to say, hey, this is their home. We're not splitting this up. This is where they're going to be. This
Yeah.
is the home. And I was like, wow. So I feel like that says a lot.
What I hear, women's hockey is pulling in people in seats than men's hockey in some of these
Yeah.
cities
Mm.
right now.
But
So
the personal thing that stood out to me, and I'm gonna say shout out to Todd Lightwicki, who owns the Kraken and in the arena. You know, he has very much been female first in the leadership of the organizations. And so the fact that even when he was on stage with Samantha Holloway doing this introduction, if you watch it, if you go back and watch it, you'll see it. You know, he says his piece, then he stands back and over and
that's what
really
I'm talking about.
centers her in that. And I was like, that speaks volumes.
I
Because as
love
much as his name was being tossed out there as one of the people that helped bring this in, which he was, you know, he totally, made this a female forward situation. And I really respect him for that. I've seen him do that for years, but for him to be able to do
Right. Yeah. I was
I
gonna
think
say
that's so well.
Seattle has the Kraken and the Seattle sports team or sports teams in general. The scene up there has been so welcoming to marginalized communities,
Yes.
have been working in Black communities, have been working
Yes.
in disabled communities, have been working with women's hockey and girls hockey for ever since the Kraken came to town. Yeah, and before, right? Like as they were building up that audience ship, but like they have been committed to that in their hiring practices and just in their day-to-day dealings. And it's just been so wonderful to see. Like, you'll never find me talk about anything going on in Seattle sports because they really step it up. And I agree, giving the women's hockey team the climate pledge as their
Yeah,
home, that sets a standard
it is.
for these
Does.
other cities to say, step it up. These women are doing the work.
Mhm.
Give them what they deserve. Okay, so in the chat, we've all been saying, hi, Taylor.
Hey
Hi, Taylor.
Taylor.
Let's say hi,
Hi,
Taylor.
Taylor.
Welcome, Taylor. Thank you so much for popping in. Taylor Green, everybody. We did a little bit of intros before. Taylor, you are in Florida. It is the evening over there, and you do not have a women's hockey team. Have you been able to see any women's hockey live? And by the way, Taylor is a Black Rock Hockey Club volunteer. She is our communications manager on the sport, sits on the board of directors, and is a sports fan of all sorts of different sports and has worked in all sorts of different sports. But women's hockey, have you been able to engage in it much down there?
Not really. Not at the highest level, like usually at like a very grassroots or like youth level. So yeah, so it's great to hear about all the great things that Seattle's doing and the investment that's being made at the top. So yeah, I know I came in right when Alicia was talking, so I didn't want to interrupt. She was spitting, so I didn't want to,
She was
but
spitting game, like she really was.
We're family up in here. It's okay. It's good to see you.
likewise.
Yeah, so Alicia extended an invitation to BGHC to come up and hang with Women's Pro Hockey Seattle for the PWHL Women's Seattle team debut in the fall. They're doing a big to-do, and I mean, me and Michelle are already plotting how we're gonna get up there from LA. So
Little
just
time room for you, Dan. Come on through.
Yeah. Hop on down across the border
Oh no.
and come see some Seattle hockey with us. Yeah, we're all kind of watching the game. We're finishing up the first period. Shots on goal are pretty high, but ain't nobody scored quite yet. I thought we were getting close at one point with
I
Ottawa.
think the goalies in this series are locked in.
Oh
I
my God.
agree.
Not
That's
not like the
always the thing.
Minnesota Toronto game the other night where neither goalie could stop a shot. We're watching. I was at my parents' place watching all four overtimes. It kind of worked out so that you could watch the Toronto Minnesota game and then switch over during the intermission to the other game.
That's fun.
And you're just watching goal, 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 goal. And then you watch the other game and they can't get anything by the goalies.
Uh, and that was just incredible to watch. It was just like,
I mean, ARD as a Canadian Olympic goalie, she was not letting anything in
mhm.
22. You
Yeah.
know,
No,
like she was ridiculous in that game, in those games. And it's always the goalies, especially in the finals, in these final series. Like I really feel bad for Toronto because they have oh so close. I'm just looking at MPP's face.
she's not happy.
She's really
I
not.
I love her facial expressions.
She's serious. She cannot hide what she is feeling at all. I love that woman. She's
Yeah.
hilarious. Yeah, that was definitely a penalty, ma'am.
All right, Ottawa
Watch
to the
the
power
replay.
play.
Go for the power play.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-oh, here we go.
I feel like Anne Renee Debienne last game, I think everyone was talking about how Montreal hadn't won a playoff game, and they got shut down by Erin Frankel last year in Boston. And I think she's like, I'm stealing this game. I don't care how many shots, how many overtimes you throw at me. I'm winning this
Mm.
game. I'm winning this game in our home arena. Oh man.
Go on, go on, go on.
And there she goes again.
Seriously, though,
Yeah.
she has no chill. She really doesn't. Be cool, Anne. Be cool.
Ooh.
Oof.
Come on, work it.
Tic
Ooh,
tac.
Oh, I thought it went in.
Oh, she said no. She said no.
Oh.
I wonder how off our games are
Oh,
from.
true. We could be on different times.
Yeah, I wonder like.
Five, four,
I'm at
three,
5, 4, 3,
two,
2. Yeah.
one.
1.
Oh, I'm not.
You're behind us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
that's already the end of the second?
First.
And for the
First.
first.
Yeah.
It said on my thing, it said end of the second. I was like, that can't be right.
No.
Imagining a whole
And you're on a
period.
different.
I'm like, somebody
Oh,
missed. I was like, okay.
Ottawa is moving the puck around pretty good and
Yeah.
on the power play there.
I'm gonna refresh mine because I am like 20 seconds behind and I'm just like, what's
Yeah.
happening?
We're gonna spoil it for you if we do
Yeah,
see
you're gonna
something
see our
ahead of you.
What had happened was
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, she said no. Oh, ARD. You
So
have my
calm
heart.
and collected too. I love that when a goalie like it looks like it's like a you know
so
no
what
big deal.
so what does Black Girl Hockey Club got going on this summer?
This summer,
Yeah.
Black Girl, well, okay, so we are wrapping up our season. We did so much in 2025,
Yeah.
this year, just in the last few months. This is the last thing we have going on today for the season. We wanted to get together and celebrate the end of the season, do some finals, watching, and I really want to support the PWHL and what they're doing here, and especially since we heard about our West Coast teams, we're like, this is the perfect time to kind of get together and pump up what the PW is doing. In the summer, we don't have much going on. We have book club
Hmm.
this month and next month. And then we take a break in the month of July and August to kind of just do things behind the scenes and get ready for the fall. Um, we do have, of course, the Black Girl Hockey Club Canada hockey camp coming up in July. This is the third annual camp for them. Uh, from what I remember, they had almost 100 people signed up already
Oh,
for
wow.
this summer's hockey camp, and they invite players and athletes from all over the world. So they've got Canadian hockey players, they've got American hockey players, and I believe this summer we're even going to be bringing in some Kenyan hockey players.
Ooh.
BGHC has a connection to the Kenyan Ice Lions. They just we all kind of started at the same time, and we all happen to be Penguins fan. Well, not all of us, but me and some of them happen to be Penguins fans. And, as Anar, who just hopped on, can attest, like I collect Penguins fans in
You just collect them.
different areas of the world, different jobs and institutions. And I'm like, you're a Pens fan. Now we're best friends. So that's kind of how I met Anar. Virgi, hi Anar, welcome. Thank you so much for hopping on and joining.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me. It's nice to see everyone.
So good to have you here, Anar, and Manashi, who can't be here. They they have created the Minority League podcast. And this is just, if you love hockey podcasts, like some of us do, this is a good one because they have a very specific audience in mind. And I want to say, like, the folks that they interview are, marginalized folks who work in hockey spaces who maybe don't always have their voices amplified in such a way. And Anar and Manashi are also Penguins fans, and we've gotten together in Pittsburgh a few times to go see hockey games together. Actually, the last time I was in Pittsburgh, Anar and we did get to see the game together. We didn't get to get Thai food this time, which bummed me out though.
I want to add that Renee is the only guest that we've had on 3 times.
Hey.
Um, yeah, she was one of our first guests. Thank you, Renee. And we just love having you on the podcast and talking to you.
Oh, thank you. I love coming on your podcast too. I'm like, when are you gonna have me up again? Just it's
Next
an
season.
annual thing at this
It
time.
is.
At this
It is.
point. So, Anar, we've been talking about the different, the new teams that are coming up in the P-Dub, and you're on the East Coast. Um, sometimes in DC, sometimes here, there, and everywhere, right? So, have you had the pleasure of getting to see a women's hockey game in person? And also, who are you rooting for in this series? I'm curious.
Ooh, I have not had the pleasure of going to a PWHL game yet, unfortunately. It's a little hard with my schedule and the fact that like none of the teams play in DC, and I wanted to go to like one of the games that they had in non-PWHL cities, but couldn't manage that. And was really hoping that they would start up a team in DC because I think there was a really big appetite for it. And was like disappointed that they didn't, but maybe in the future that would be great. So yeah, I don't know who I'm rooting for. That's a good question. Like I just want everyone to have fun.
That's literally what I said when we started. Um,
It's
just
so
want
much
everybody
fun
to
to watch
have a good
women's hockey. Yeah, yeah. Although I will say that Ottawa has like this, they have fans who play kazoos at the games. And I think that's kind of fun. So
That
Um,
feels very Canadian.
yeah, yeah, it feels like very wholesome. And
Oh,
And where
well,
they blast trumpets and the
I don't
loudest
think
things ever. He
I don't
gets
think
not
I've ever played
throwing
a kazoo in my
octopi.
life.
I was
dance
gonna
on
ask.
it.
it's so different from like hockey games where sometimes people bring cowbells and I'm like, how did you
Yeah.
cowbell? Like, why? How were you allowed to bring a cowbell in? But
That's the worst. I cannot stand those.
yeah, yeah. So
Walking out of the arena completely overstimulated, and then you also hear a cowbell. Like, no, thank
no.
you.
They gave us little mini cowbells last year at
Where?
one of the games
Oh my
in
God.
Toronto. And so yeah, maybe I shouldn't
Who
sit
did
next to you
that?
if we
Like,
go
Wait, was
hang
Greenland.
out in
this a Maple
Seattle
Leafs
because
game or a
I'm
Sub
just I'm
game?
just ringing that bell like all game.
Such a dude.
Yeah, totally overstimulated. You're
My
gonna see
my
me with my
girlfriend
noise
does
canceling
too.
headphones.
You have an actual siren in the Jersey. I'm calling them Jersey, but the
I
New York
like
game.
that.
It's pretty
Yeah.
Well,
cool.
Yeah.
that makes sense. I can see that. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Loud.
worst one is the cannon. The cannon in
Oh, I hate
Yeah.
the
Columbus.
cannon. I literally don't want to watch their games because of the cannon.
Yeah.
I went to see a Leaf game there and the cannon went off and every single time I almost had a heart attack.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
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 Some of the players too.
Yeah.
Like, I literally hear ringing in my ear.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right, so now we're in intermission.
Yeah.
We see our Jocks and Jills on uh doing their thing, which is so cool. I love that I didn't even realize this, Taylor, until you mentioned it, that the PW has their own kind of like podcasty
Mhm.
kind of thing happening. In the States, we have access to the games on YouTube. And for me, this has been a game changer
Absolutely.
because for years, watching those really horribly placed cameras in the various women's leagues, not being able to get any commentary, right? At some times. And so the way that the PW has really stepped it up, come out of the gate running.
Mhm.
Um, with all, I honestly see like all the wins and the L's from the previous leagues and taking those lessons and putting it into, creating something really special
Yeah.
with the PWHL. I love that they're expanding, on a regular basis. I hope that they keep doing that. Over the next couple years. I've been wanting, I really think it would be so cool to have a team here in California, a women's hockey team.
I would have to say in the next iteration or two, I would imagine that would happen. And I think this is more of a business side comment question now is I'm actually intrigued by this whole kind of centralized ownership situation with the teams. And I'm gonna tell you that I think it's fascinating in a very good way because it does kind of help keep things even when it comes to like ticket pricing, and I'm assuming that's still going to be the case, with these. And I know that was a concern for some Seattle fans out here because when you have a brand spanking new arena that is privately funded, ticket prices were not very inexpensive. And they've come down a little bit since, even for season ticket holders, which makes me very happy now. But I think that was one of the concerns when people were, when they did the deposits. They're like, oh my God, is it going to be the same kind of cost it is for a Kraken game? And I was like, well, if I look at the other six teams and kind of look at their prices, like they're kind of even.
Yeah.
Some areas a little higher than others because that's just, cost of living. So my hope is that that's going to be the same situation with Vancouver and Seattle. And I think that creates a level of accessibility that has been missing and needs to be prioritized. So my hope is that they're sticking to that same kind of measurement when it comes to getting season tickets on whatever level that is. But I'm excited to see how this works out, and again seeing kind of how this centralized ownership what are the pros of it?
Yeah, and I wonder, does when I went to the rivalry series, it was at crypto.com arena, aka Staples, whatever.
Yeah, it'll
Um,
always be Staples.
It'll
So
always
I
be
was
but that's
like,
Staples. And they had let's see, how many bowls are there? Are there three or four, Rochelle? Three. So they had the top bowl closed off. There was
yeah,
nobody up there, and everybody was in the first time I went, everybody was in the lower bowl. The
yeah,
second time I went, they did the lower, the middle. And then there were a couple stragglers up in the top who I assume maybe just stayed in their seats
mm,
after the Kings game because that's how they did it. Or maybe they had season tickets, they just want to come down or whatever. But I wonder if that affects, the just the consolidation
mhm.
affects like keeping the ticket prices low, and making sure that we're not wasting trying to grab money and then wasting the opportunity to fill up those arenas and at least make them
Yeah.
look cool.
I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens this season, right? Because I think the popularity is building. I remember being at the takeover here in Seattle and seeing how so many people were like shocked that it was a physical game
Yeah.
by women. I was like, oh, and they're like, wait, they're fighting. I'm like, of course, yes, come on,
It's
go.
hockey.
And they're like, oh wait, so this isn't like powder puff hockey and all these other things. So I put a stat on my Twitter, and I can't remember who the first team was, but I was like, I realized that of the 8 teams, Climate Pledge is the second largest venue at like 17,000 and some change. Is it Montreal that's first?
I think it's Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah, I knew it was an M. So I was like, these are some sizable arenas that can help that I think will do the job. I think that the numbers will suffice. I don't foresee it being like looking half empty, if you will. But I think
Alicia,
so.
I'm curious, how involved was the Seattle Kraken in kind of the application for the women's team?
That I cannot answer confidently, but I would have to imagine based on the press conference and kind of all who was there and who's been in those conversations. I know Zoe's been in those conversations as well. I would say that it was not standoffish. I would
Mhm.
say that they were very involved, especially with, having Climate Pledge be the home arena and trying to work those things out. Um, yeah, I don't think they stood in the background. I think they were very involved
Do you think
in the
that
conversations.
I've heard some things like that this centralized system may, in a year or two, once the league has its footing, they
Hmm.
may start selling them off to individual owners. Do you think that the Seattle Kraken ownership group would be interested in acquiring the women's team?
I would be surprised if they didn't.
Yeah.
I think I can confidently say that. I would be surprised if they didn't. And again, I think that this is something that they've been anticipating. I've had I'm gonna call it the good fortune. I've had the good fortune over the years to get to know some of the front office staff, kind of going seeing them at the games, being in the owner suites a few times, and just being able to kind of hang out with those folks even at the practice facility that's in North Seattle, which is another amazing facility that's brand spanking new. And this is something that's been part of the conversation the entire time, wanting to bring this in, and just knowing how closely they've worked with Women's Pro Hockey Seattle,
Yeah.
over the past few years too. I know that this is something that they have a vested interest in, should that model change. I
And do
would
you
be
think,
very surprised if they were not wanting to do that.
I'm curious too, just the way that Seattle built and talks about their fan base and just how much crossover you think there is between like the Seattle Kraken fan base and will they move to
I think
following?
so.
Because like
Absolutely.
in
I would
Toronto, I don't think that there's that crossover between like NHL Maple Leaf
Yeah.
fans and PWHL fans, but I feel like Seattle would be more, you'd see that.
I agree with that, and I think it's for a couple of different reasons. If I can remember both of them, but the first one that's at the top of my brain is that, and I'm speaking as someone who's only been in Seattle for like the past 11 years, so Detroit, Silicon Valley, and now here. I think one of the things that the Kraken did and did very well was create an inviting atmosphere because when you're the 32nd team, you're going to have a fandom already or two. And I think that they did a really good job of inviting that fandom in and not necessarily competing for it. I feel like if I was to walk into Joe Louis Arena or now Little Caesars Arena back home with not wearing a Red Wings jersey, I would get razzed. I would expect it, but that's what happens. That doesn't necessarily happen here. There is some razzing, but not to that same level.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost welcomed that they created that sense. And I think because of that, and knowing that people came in with their own fandom before this team came here, is that there's that same level of welcoming. It's like, okay, now you can come over to this one. We're kind of they're kind of step siblings in a sense. They're both newer teams coming into a space that it hadn't been at before or not been for a very long time because Seattle had the Metropolitans many moons ago before, they see I know a little something. So it's like, so I think Seattle's unique in that sense. And I like to think that that played into the decision of the expansion as well, is that it wouldn't be such a hard sell
I think so too.
to
Yeah.
to bring in these new fans and also have that natural crossover, especially when that crossover is in the same arena as the men's team. So it's just kind of an extension of coming back home to a place that you're used to going to, but now maybe just a little more affordable because the tickets aren't that expensive. And so they can take more advantage of this very state-of-the-art welcoming space that's been, housed, the home of the Kraken for the past 4 years. So yeah, so
That's
I think that's
that's
a
one
good
of
question.
that's one of my favorite things about going to PWHL game is like there are fans that will travel from Montreal to Toronto, Ottawa to Toronto, and I'm sure like Boston to New York. And there's not this sense of like animosity towards the other fan base. There's kind of an understanding that we all are fighting for the same thing and that we want this women's league to grow. And we're cheering for our own teams, but not at the expense of like making the experience difficult when you come into our home arena. Like we're all going to cheer for a team, but we're not going to scream at each other in the stands.
And I was just thinking about what Renee said too, like you said about the Kings. So I'm in a season ticket group for the Kraken games, and so I make sure to get the last home game of the season because that's when everything gets given away. And so the people that have the seats next to mine rarely come. And I was like, wait, there's somebody here. Who are these people? But they had sold their tickets to this father and son from LA who was in town. They were like, hey, we hadn't seen the arena before, but are Kings fans, and we were playing the Kings, and so they're there, and the son was just like, "I'm really surprised that no one's like making fun of us." You
Mm.
know, there's again there's like jabbing, but not to the level of before, and so even that spoke to me in a bit. Like, you know what, they came in here expecting to kind of have their guard up because it's their team and they didn't win, but I'm like, but it wasn't. It was more welcoming, I think, that they expected. But yeah, there were still tons of Kings fans in the arena with their jerseys, with their fandom, and we're just all just kicking it. So it's really a great experience. And I cut somebody off.
Oh, I wanted to know since I haven't been able to get to a PWHL game yet. I wanted to know a little bit more about like the atmosphere at games. And it
Mhm.
sounds great that it is friendlier. Like I'm a Penguins fan in Washington, D.C. And so Caps games are generally fine. Yeah, they're generally fine. I haven't had any incidents, but like there is a huge rivalry,
Yeah.
and like the arena does get loud because they're when the Penguins are in town, there are a lot of people who drive down from Pittsburgh to go to a game. And so yeah, so I'm just curious about what the atmosphere is like, and like I've read about like the kazoos at Ottawa games, and like it just seems like it seems sort of friendlier and like there's more camaraderie amongst fans. So if somebody could talk to that, or a couple of you.
Yeah, I was like blown away by the experience because I think when I went to um a Sirens game, I think I was like going in just being like, I'm so excited. I'm watching professional women's hockey. And I wasn't thinking going in about like the experience of being a fan. But just comparing it to I've only been to a couple stadiums. I've been to Flyers games, Cavs games, a lot of Devils games. And part of the reason why I joined BGHC is because it's not always the most welcoming culture. I think, especially as someone who works in the city of Newark, which is a mostly Black Latinx city, I've seen a lot of really cool changes, and I see a lot of efforts to make it feel like more of a safe space. But it was just so cool to be at the PWHL game where I feel like exactly like you all said, Dan, Alicia, it's just like everybody was like we're here because we want everyone in this room to win, and it felt like very infectious. Like I had conversations with folks like in the stadium, even outside the game. There were just really good conversations, and everyone was just so excited to be there. And I've definitely never had that experience in an HL game. Different kind of energy and different kind of fandom. Also, just like a lot of young folks. Just so much like diversity, even folks that like aren't familiar with hockey, which you can get like a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, you don't understand like what a power play is, like there was just so many, it was very clear that it was like a very welcoming space. So I was super excited by that experience.
I really like that PWHL Seattle and Vancouver like posted right when they had made the formal announcement that they posted the rules and what separates their league from the other leagues. And so it sounds like they understand that with a new team and a new-ish league, we should welcome new fans, and we shouldn't have that same sort of like cultural gatekeeping of like, oh, you haven't been a fan for this long. So yeah, I thought that was really cool, and it helped me. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that, yeah, they have this system. Or so yeah, totally agree. And yeah, everyone's been really nice. And I think even us not even wanting to pick a team, just like rooting for both teams kind of also shows the spirit of the PWHL versus other teams. But at the same time, yeah, I do think that sometimes more like family friendly sports are marketed more so towards women's sports. But if you like hockey, you like hockey. And like that includes the physical aspects of it as well. So I don't really understand going to a professional hockey game and not expecting all aspects of professional hockey. So yeah, even amongst women.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, like I was saying earlier, I grew up watching NHL hockey, and I went to Maple Leaf Gardens, and I've been to the Bell Center to watch Canadians games. And there's, I mean, the toxic culture of hockey is very real. And I experienced that in locker rooms growing up, where I was the kid with glasses, and that was the one thing that set me apart from everyone else. And so everybody in the locker room would kind of focus in on me. And there are groups of guys that are drinking too much and they get aggressive, and all of their worst instincts take over, and they like those kids in the locker room did to me. They choose somebody often that looks different than them, that has a different experience than them, and they're gonna just pick on them during the game. And I always hated that about going to an NHL game. Like everybody that's going to these games is paying a lot of money. They've worked hard to be there. They just want to love the game, and they should be able to be there without being harassed by other people. Like it's the hockey that's bringing everybody loves hockey. So can we not just find the camaraderie behind that? And that's what I've loved so much about the PWHL, is that I've never experienced any kind of aggressiveness from one fan to another. If someone has a question, somebody is willing to jump in. If somebody has a question about like, well, how does this chant go? Then someone's gonna help them. Um, and all of the kids and especially all the girls teams, like that's something I've never seen at an NHL game. When I went to the Toronto Montreal game at the Scotiabank Arena, we were sitting in the nosebleeds and we were surrounded by there must have been 5,000 girls from like girls teams in Toronto up there and just like really high pitched screaming, but like such an incredible positive attitude. And I've never felt that kind of just we're all here to enjoy the same thing, and we're not going to let any negativity into our space. And just like that's been so refreshing to me, having seen the other side of men's hockey. And it's I love going to PWHL games. I'm never concerned that I'm going to go and have somebody else ruin my time there.
Yeah, and I think with the financial investment in women's sports, there's also been more intention behind creating like inclusive spaces for everyone. So like the rise in like sports bars that cater to women or to non-binary people, or just a more safer, more welcoming space. Like the sports bar in Portland, or I think there's the Rough and Tumble in Seattle. I'm going to Omaha for this weekend, and there's one called Set. It's a volleyball pun. So I'm really excited about it. And yeah, even having like the PWHL more accessible on YouTube, they're able to show more games across, all, throughout the entire space. So yeah, I'm really excited to not only see more teams, but also more spaces to watch them and to make them more accessible and like be able to go with my friends who might not be big about hockey now, but like, going to a space where they feel safe and where they can just, hang out and have a good time. Maybe they will be. So we'll see.
Taylor, you hit the nail on the head. I was just about to say accessibility too. Is that, and it's not just about ADA accessibility, but being able to watch games on demand, being able to watch it from wherever you are. It's not this whole, if I'm not there, I'm going to miss it. If I don't watch it live, I'm going to miss it. It's nice that I think that's one of the weird, slightly good things that came out the pandemic, right? Was to say we can deliver content and programming kind of in this real time, but also in this kind of on demand, grab it when we can, situation, which I think adds to this piece, right? I don't know if this would have been as well received pre-pandemic from the YouTube side because, and honestly, can I just say as an aside, I think it blows my mind that of all the companies that went out of business right after the pandemic, it would be Skype. I'm like, was this, I mean, Skype was should have been built for this. Like, this was their shining moment. And
Yeah.
nothing. It was Zoom, I was just like, oh my God. But we talk about accessibility too. When I think about being a Black woman hockey fan, right? It did not make me think that it was a weird thing until I left Detroit. And in hindsight, a part of that does have to do with accessibility. And what I mean by that is that, 80s, 90s, I'm aging myself, Detroit, we had the big four, right? So we had baseball, football, hockey, and basketball. But but the basketball arena and the football arena were in the suburbs at the time. And so young folks, unless you knew someone who was driving and had a car, because the city buses didn't go out that far, they didn't run that late. We had in downtown Detroit, Joe Louis Arena, so hockey, and Tiger Stadium, baseball. So there was a ton of us that went to the games because I just had to hop on a bus, be downtown in 10, 15 minutes. The games were, reasonably priced and you can go. So I always had like Detroit Red Wings gear and walked around with it, no big deal. But it wasn't until I moved to the Bay Area and I was going to my first, Sharks game. They're looking like, in the right place. I'm like, yeah, I know where I am. I'm a fan, and that was the first time, and I couldn't think about why was that such an anomaly. But it wasn't until I moved out here where we didn't have an NHL team at the time. Well, I had to think about that. I was like, I'm not used to not living in a hockey town or a professional hockey town. Like what's going on? And so when I would talk to more people about my fandom, of all sports, not just hockey, we had to think about that. They're like, but why hockey? Why is hockey your thing? Above everything else. I thought you guys were basketball, or football. And I'm like, yeah. But that's what I thought about. It's like, it was so much easier to get to go to those games as a kid. It was just right there. Now, thankfully, they've redone everything. So now all of them are in downtown Detroit, which is great. But that was the situation at the time. And I was like, so because of that accessibility and those proximity issues, that's kind of how that fandom for me started. And so now seeing it kind of come fullish circle with what's happening here in Seattle and then just across all the leagues for PWHL and just this kind of inclusiveness and the sense of belonging and get in where you fit in kind of thing, right? It's like whether you're someone that's a diehard analytics, and that's not me. I am not the analytics person. I am that we're going to go and enjoy it, have a good time. There are people I'm going to stand, but otherwise it's just about how many other people can I bring with me to have this kind of enjoyable event, this enjoyable time where just a moment in time we can all be on the same side of something before we have to go out and deal with the real world.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is our moments in time where we can just all be fans of this team, regardless of whatever else is in our backgrounds. And that's the thing I always try to lean towards in all of this. Like this is that time, those moments in time, especially now, that we are all longing for just
Yeah. It's nice to have a break, like a breather. And
Mm.
yeah, I think Taylor, you mentioned women's the sports bars that play women's sports or like are focused on women and I think like I haven't been able to go to one of those yet. Like I don't think there's one in DC, but thinking about like where I would go, like sometimes people ask me like why don't you go watch like the playoffs at a bar or like a sports bar? And I actually don't really enjoy that sort of atmosphere. Like it's very male focused. And I think the only place that I really enjoyed watching sports like the Olympics and maybe like a big hockey game or something like that was there was a gay bar in my neighborhood that unfortunately shut down a year ago, but they like would like if you asked they would put the games on and it was like a very nice like welcoming atmosphere. Like people weren't like super fan crazy, like they just wanted to like enjoy the game and like take their mind off things for a while. And so I'm looking forward to yeah, going to like one of those new sports bars. And Taylor, I'd love to hear about the one in Omaha and what it's like. Like
So excited. And it seems like a true like community space. Like they have yoga on their patio. They're partnering with an organization that makes like safe spaces for LGBTQ plus communities in the area. They have like cool spaces for kids, so it's very like family friendly. It's clearly like meant to be like a safe, welcoming space for everyone. So I'm very excited. So I will give you a report afterwards.
yeah, that'd be great.
that also means you need to come to Seattle so you can hang out with me and the crew at Rough and Tumble Pub, which is
Yeah.
also one of those. And I know that there's the Sports Bra up in Portland. They opened first before Rough and Tumble. And I want to say, and I don't want to make myself out to be a liar. I think one of the big was that at the Sports Bra, 100% women's sports across the board. What Jen Barnes, who owns Rough and Tumble Pub here in the Seattle area, she prioritizes them. She also still plays men's sports, but it's very much just women's focus. Like we want the men to watch it too.
Yeah.
We want you to be able to see over there and watch that game, then turn your head over here and say, "Oh, what's going on over there? And get into that kind of game too. So it's been really great to see Rough and Tumble Pub out here kind of grow and what they're doing. Actually, and then now she's kind of part owner in a new football club, the Ballard FC. So, which is a women's soccer team. So I was like, oh my God. So it's really been great to kind of hang out there at times when you can't afford to go to Climate Pledge or anywhere. They're always holding watch parties for various sports, but it is very much female centric, women's sports centric. But yeah, we'll watch those guys' games too. But we know who's got priority.
There is a one down here in Southern California and Long Beach actually that's called Watch Me Sports Bar that is a women's sports bar too. So they're popping up all over the place and it's a like a great space. There's like a wall that has a bunch of signatures with like local athletes and everything too. So it's like I love that that's a trend. That making those spaces and making women's sports a priority there though. That's kind of awesome.
I'm curious, for those of you who work with Black Girl Hockey Club and maybe have interacted with some of the scholarship recipients, do they talk about like what like the PWHL being something that they aspire to, or like how has that the development of the PWHL had an impact on those young athletes who are getting scholarships?
I'll go first. Soroya does great DEI work, league wide, and so all of the scholarship athletes love her, and they love her Soroya Strong mentorship program, which is a part of earning a scholarship with BGHC. And I think that's one of the perks of the summer camp that you can meet Soroya and Sophie Jakes in person, and they're real people. They're not some like distant, figure on a poster, but that they're people who want to work with you, want to help you grow. And so seeing that growth and seeing the legacy of the athletes and how they've been able to have kind of a bond with their favorite player is very fun. And when we get to have that kind of celebratory call with the athletes and their families, sometimes we'll ask them their favorite player. And it does seem more and more they'll say, oh, I like Soroya, I like Michaela Grant Mentis, I like Hillary Knight, or something like that. So to see more of that is very cool too. And for the ones who live in places with PWHL teams, I have heard like, oh, well, we're going to a Boston Fleet game and not so much just a Bruins game anymore. So that's been cool too. So I imagine as we'll have uh hopefully more expansion teams. And hopefully as our scholarship athletes expand as well, we'll see more of it. But yeah, it's been really cool to like notice that trend of them mentioning more PWHL teams and players.
I would say it's been interesting for so I'm with Women's Pro Hockey Seattle. And so our youth ambassador May is now a four-time scholarship recipient. And so it's been interesting to see the trajectory of it. It doesn't feel like this pipe dream kind of thing. So to see that over time and we got closer and closer and closer to seeing the realization of a professional women's hockey team in the place that she lives is now like it's right there, right? So it's not this, oh, one day and maybe in a few years and once I graduate college or whatever I'm going to do and maybe just maybe that dialogue has gone away now. It's like it's here. It's like now this is a thing. Now I'm showing up to this in the prime of all of this happening, right? And so seeing that as a very tangible goal and not oh, maybe one day, this will happen here. I'm going to have to travel and live in another state or another country to be able to play and be like, oh, wait, no, this is right here. And it's in this great place and it's with these great teams and these great people that are bringing it all together. It's it's been interesting to see that development happen in a relatively short amount of time for her and for others like her to go, this isn't a 20 years down the line thing. this is a 2 year down the line, now if she pulls it off. So I mean, and so it's I can't really explain it other than, it's the realization of a dream, right? But it's not this thing that's so far away that you have to like journal and look back at it in a couple of decades. It's like this is now. This is around the corner.
And the PWHL pays the salaries. I'm not, I don't know, but I think I read that the salaries are enough so that players can make a living off of just playing hockey. Like that's their job. Because
That's
one of
major.
the issues with the previous women's leagues was that the salaries were so low that the players had to do other jobs. And that's similar to women's professional basketball
Right.
as well. So that I think can be a barrier too for young players who want to go into pro hockey. Like if they don't see it as a career option that can actually pay enough for them to be able to support themselves, it's really hard. So in that way, the PWHL has also been able to like change the nature of women's sports too. Or
Which is why I find this centralized ownership group interesting positively in that way too, because they're setting that standard. They're saying this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it as a quote unquote startup league, right? So if and when it ever comes that time where they decentralize it and they can have separate ownership groups, that is going to be the bare minimum that new group will have to meet, and it needs to be spectacular beyond that. So I love that they are setting the stage and setting that bar to say this is the starting point, where for a lot of women's leagues they're trying to get to that starting point for numerous reasons. So yeah, we were talking about this earlier. It's like I'm just intrigued by this model and see how far they can take it, and if it will have impact across other women's leagues as well. We set that example and say this works. Here's the business reason why we need to start doing this across all women's leagues, not just this one.
Very shameless plug. Speaking of like the present and now, we have a partnership with the Gist and Bauer Hockey. That's the She's Not Next, She's Now campaign, where you
I
can get
saw
your
that.
very own customized jersey and shirt. The shirts are cheaper, so no pressure if you get the shirt. And yeah, 10% goes to BGHC. So if you're interested, if you like it, if you want to support BGHC, if you want to see more watch parties, if you want to see us in Seattle for PWHL Seattle, get yourself a shirt, get yourself a jersey, support the
Okay,
team.
I need this jersey to be more than just one size, though.
True, I feel you.
Okay, because I was there, I was taking my coins, I was going, then I was like, even with the weight I'm trying to lose, I ain't gonna get it anytime soon. I was like, it'll just be on my wall, but I want to wear it.
I'll send us feedback to like have more sizing. If
They
you want
need
more
more
people to buy,
sizes.
have
Everybody
more
girls, we
sizing.
got things,
Yeah.
right? It's like, we gotta make up for those spaces. So no, I went to the website as soon as I saw it, but I was like, ugh. So,
Fair,
but
fair
but
feed.
noted, I can go and buy a shirt. I can do that.
yeah, there are
Yeah.
tons of different sizes in the shirt.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I get us more money, but we'll pay it. We'll pay
We appreciate it.
it.
I was just gonna say one thing about having this ability to just play the game and earn a living playing hockey, I think has an effect on having these athletes who are from all over the United States and Canada be able to stay in the game. I think when it was the Canadian Women's Hockey League, they were being paid kind of like a stipend, but not enough to like cover their cost of living. And so you had turnover all the time of like the higher end players were making enough through the national team to stick around, and they would be on all these pro teams, but there'd be turnover at the bottom because those players couldn't afford without the national team salary to stay in the game. And so I think what happens is you have a lot of women that were very good in the game and could have put a pro career together, kind of leave the game. And that means that they're not coaching, they're not mentoring young girls in the summertime. They don't have that ability to kind of take time away and devote it to hockey in a mentorship role. And I think you can see the PWHL starting to do their own kind of branded camps. Um, and just having these women stay in the game and go back to their hometowns in the summer, they can mentor these young girls and that knowledge transfer happens. It's like not for profits. You lose people in not for profits because they have to move away. They have to go and devote their time to other things. And so you lose um, this knowledge transfer. And so I can see the impact of that happening now with more women able to stay in the game and even having staff that can be paid that are working on the business side of things, right? Like there's an opportunity there where NHL teams were very reluctant to hire people that didn't look like me, you know? And so the opportunity for these franchises they understand that they need to hire more women's coaches, they need to develop more women's coaches. The NHL is not going to do that. There need to be more female officials, and you can see that they're kind of the PWHL ran a camp and they had coaches present at the camp talking about like communication between coaches and officials. They had uh, officials with lots of experience in the game kind of break down plays during the first season and teach them. And so now you have this whole group of women that are coming up in the game that can see themselves as general managers and presidents and coaches and athletic therapists. And like for so long, there's these big stories about, oh, the LA Kings have the first female athletic therapist in 20 years. It's not a story in the women's side. And so they're they're paid a living wage and they're given the opportunity and then they go on and mentor more people. So it's just I think you're going to see more movement. I think from women coaching in the PWHL to moving to the NHL, and I think that that's going to have an even bigger role in bringing more women into the game.
And I think right now the PWHL is fairly remote in terms of working opportunities. So that helps too, if you're a parent or if you just prefer a more flexible work environment. So, and Dan, you've been great of posting and amplifying positions. So shout out to BGHC Comms for sharing the opportunity. So yeah, I've noticed that too. And especially with PWHL Vancouver and Seattle, there'll be more jobs available. So I'm looking forward to seeing more people like us in those positions. I'm curious if you all think that maybe what Unrivaled has done for women's basketball, maybe they're a similar model, or maybe just certain learnings to take from that into women's hockey, that there's more of an emphasis on self-care and having kind of all the bells and whistles as a part of their experience and a part of their training. They have equity in the league, so having a more stable financial future. It's not like super long term. It's a fairly short term league for now, and just kind of a different approach. I think they've almost made a profit, or were like at like we're pretty even their inaugural season, which is pretty good. So yeah, I'm taking notes on them too and how that can apply to women's sport in general.
I think it's weird. I think Seattle is unique. So I think they almost kind of, for lack of a better phrase, I think we have a head start on that. Especially from like a self-care, mental health aspect of it. So other than I'm just a sports fan for having all this stuff in the back, and this rotates because there's usually like football and basketball back there. I'm on the Seattle Sports Commission as well. And so last year, this month last year, because it was Mental Health Awareness Month, we actually had now former U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy out here, and he did a couple of different talks. And one was at the Alaska Airlines their self-care center. They actually have one for their employees out here, but they also like rent that space out to community groups. So we were there for that. And we really just had a really great conversation about mental health and self-care. And we had like a retired player from the Seahawks that shared about his experience, who also used to play for the Lions. So, I was happy about that. And someone from the women's hockey, no, it was, think girl, someone from the Seattle Storm, but also from the Seattle Rain. Also talking about their mental health journeys and whether they were practicing to become a therapist to utilizing one, but also centering self-care and how that's really important. So I feel like Seattle on a whole has been really upfront with talking about that very publicly across all the sports teams, major and minor. And so I'm hoping that that will continue to be the case in this. But I agree. I think Unrivaled could create a great example for other leagues to take on and not hide behind or take away that sense of shame around those topics. Again, so to have this 6'5" beast of a man talk about his stuff, it really was like, okay, well, it doesn't make him look any smaller. It doesn't make him look any whatever. So it was so great to be able to have people that are bold enough to share their experiences publicly around it, both male and female athletes, but to put that front and center. So I will say that's one of the things I do appreciate about the Seattle sports scene here is that it's not so testosterone heavy and so kind of everyone else back off and this is who we are. It's very accessible. Like you can walk up to these folks at the grocery store or they'll walk up to you. It's something that was not necessarily used to being in Detroit and in the Bay Area because fandoms. We're weird out here in a good way to the point that you can be approachable and that they can feel like they can approach their fans as well and talk about such sensitive topics.
So, Alicia, does the Seattle freeze not apply to sports, or is it a thing, or is it not a thing? Not to be stereotypical, I'm just asking.
Well, maybe with the fans,
Wait, what's the Seattle freeze?
Ooh, the Seattle. I mean, not get myself in trouble. So Seattle freeze is kind of this sense of people not being super warm and welcoming unless they know you, kind of thing. And I did experience that when I first moved here from the Bay Area. I was trying to like volunteer, sign up to volunteer at this particular place, and they looked at me like, "We don't know you." And I'm like, well, isn't that the point as a new person in town? So I can so it was just weird to go like, wait, I'm not good enough to give you my time and talent on a volunteer basis because we don't know you kind of thing. So it's not as bad as I think it's been in the past because I think the more people that move here kind of helps to take that off a little bit after their initial shock of it. But yeah, it's not the most kind of open arms welcoming space at times when you first get here, but once you get acclimated, it's not so bad.
My experience was similar when I lived in Seattle for a bit. The friends that I made there were all also transplants, so which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But it's everybody's very nice and like, hellos and everything like that. But it's like very much if you're like, okay, we should actually get together and do things and like make a deeper connection. It's
I need to read references.
That's where the freeze happens. That's where the freeze happens. Like their face freezes, like action freezes, like everything stops there. Yeah. So, the people that I still, I moved back to California a bit ago, but the people I still talk to were transplant from Iowa, from Chicago, from Kansas, from like all over the place, because a lot of people do move there, as obviously me too, but, fellow California folk, but I think I speak to maybe one native Seattleite still,
Yeah.
and that's about it. So it's just everybody's very nice, but like getting together and like actually speaking to each other was definitely like a bit of a culture shock moving up there. I think that sports is like probably like a great place to like get past that
Yes,
though, because at least you did have something in common that you can
exactly.
kind of start off from, because otherwise it's I don't know you, you didn't go to my high school, you didn't go I haven't known you
Me
for 15
too.
years, so therefore I do not want to know you for the next 15.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Give me a reason. It's like, okay, sorry.
I just want to note, Dan flagged this that this game is scoreless after the second period. Like
Oh,
there have been
Y'all
so
jinxed
many
it.
chances, yeah, but
really hoping the last power play there was going to be something.
I know,
It's
same.
getting chippy out there too, because there was a couple little
Yeah.
scrums happening.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's one goal now in 6 periods, which is insane.
That is insane.
What do
Yeah.
you think is what do you think is going on? Do you think they're still so tired from the last game, or they're
I
just
think
like,
that's I
or we
think
don't
that's
want to
definitely
repeat?
part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, like not enough pickle juice or mustard.
More mustard packs.
I wonder if
I
they played that sound clip, mustard. Because if they did, that was a missed opportunity. I was like,
I think that sort of stuff, like the there was that picture of the mustard packs like
yeah,
taped to the glass, and just the fact that there were so many OTs, like that sort of stuff, also um like can attract people to the game because like the mustard packs are weird, and
yeah,
then but the OT is exciting,
yeah.
and it also like it gives people the opportunity to talk about the physical and mental challenges of the game and what it must be like for the players and the coaches. And so that was, I mean, yeah, that was exhausting, but also um, fun to see. And it like was fun to read um, some of the like articles about the game. Um, yeah, I
I'm looking forward to the I-5-ory
definitely, yeah,
between, between Vancouver and Seattle. Like we're making up this rivalry as we go along. It's gonna happen.
I love it.
So if you could travel, so this is for everybody. If you could travel to one city to watch a game next season,
Oh,
what city would that be and why?
I mean, it's Pittsburgh. I'm gonna throw that out there right now. It's Pittsburgh. I haven't been in a couple years. I'm very sad. And it's because of Crosby and Malkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, I would like to go to Seattle. I've never been to a game at Climate Pledge, and it would be fun to go to PWHL and NHL games there. And also, like on the NHL side, like I'd love to go to Edmonton because just
Mhm.
during the playoffs, they're so loud and the atmosphere looks so amazing. Um, yeah, I'd love to go there.
I think I also probably would have said Seattle, and this is before I met you, Alicia.
Okay.
But now I think I'm really convinced.
Now you gotta
Now
come.
I'm really convinced.
Yeah, like
I
specifically, I would like to go to a game with Alicia.
Yeah, literally, yes. Because
Going to a game with me is an experience. I'm just letting you know right now. Going to a Kraken game with me.
Yay.
Anytime I bring someone to a Kraken game with me, I'm like, look, I said, you can stay in the seat and watch the game. You do not have to follow me around because I'm going to be it's a situation.
It's a situation.
It's
Now I really want to go. Now
it's a
Yeah.
situation. If you go back and look on my Twitter, you'll see it. So there's a group of us, a fan group that was started before the Kraken got here. And so we kind of call ourselves the 32 crew now because the 32nd team. And
Mhm.
so for the past 4 seasons, what we'll do is that at the end of the first period, no matter who's there, we all gather to take a group photo
Mm.
at this particular spot inside a Climate Pledge arena called the Living Wall. And that's what it is. It's like these plants and stuff that's growing out of the wall. So everyone goes there to take photos. So sometimes there's 10 of us there for the group photo. Sometimes there's 50 of us there for the group photo. But we are, so no matter where we're sitting in the arena, we know at the end of the first period, we all converge to
Hmm.
that spot to kick it, say hi for a minute, get that group photo, and disperse. But yeah, it's Climate Pledge Arena is an experience in and of itself. I still haven't seen everything that's in it yet.
I love that. One, I've followed them just because of the cool stuff they're doing on and off the ice, obviously. But I'm also just a fan of going with someone that's a huge fan. Like, there's something about that experience, like going to DC with Fatu, for example, who I know she couldn't be here
Yeah.
tonight, but seeing a Cavs game with
I know, I want to
like
meet her in person so bad.
they were actively playing my team and I was like not rooting for them, but just like feeling that energy of being with someone who's a fan is always so cool. So,
Yeah.
but Seattle's been on my list and I've never been there, so maybe next year will be the year.
Oh, how about you, Taylor?
Uh, I would say either Pittsburgh or LA because I like doing stuff with Rochelle and she's a lovely tour guide. I have such like basic questions about Southern California, and Rochelle's just really kind and patient. And, she like, I was just like, so we're on the four, we're on the five, we're on the 405, we're on the, I didn't know. And she was
All
just,
the thes.
it was just really like kind and patient and just made me like want to watch games with her forever. So, yeah, definitely gonna give it to Rochelle and hang out in LA more often.
I'm gonna go with Seattle too. Because I followed the Kraken as soon as they started building that team, and I really liked the steps that they took towards accessibility.
Hmm.
And yeah, all of the decisions they made around building that club. And I've never been to Seattle, and
What?
after meeting you in this call, I got to see a game with you.
You got to come through. You
Yeah,
got to come through.
and if it was with the whole Black Girl Hockey Club group, I think that would be incredible.
It'll be, now you got me thinking. It'll be interesting if the first home game for PWHL Seattle is within a day or two of a Kraken game. Then we can do a double header.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
That'd be fun. Because I mean, it'll be different energies, but fun energy still between seeing the Kraken one and then the PWHL one. But yeah, you got to see how that rolls. It's a thing.
You're quite the ambassador, Alicia. I must say, you love the like yesterday's price is not today's price. Whatever your rate is, it's up tomorrow because
Okay.
you're a good ambassador. You've got
It's just fun. I mean, when you're around a bunch of people that are really about the fandom and just being together and just, bringing something to fruition, it creates a bond. And I was like, it's just fun. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun.
And
So
what
yeah,
about you?
come hang out
Where
and
would
have
you?
fun with us. I wanna, you know what? I kind of want to go to New York because I haven't been in forever. I haven't been as an adult
Wait, but
at
where
all.
in like the Islanders or the Rangers?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna go with Rangers.
Pirates.
Maybe Rangers, but I also would want to but if we're talking PWHL though, I would want to go to see Minnesota play. I want to be in their home stadium so I can wear all my accoutrements
Yeah.
that is frost to that. I when we had the takeover tour, Burton Lee, who's part of PWHL hockey operations, he stopped by the suite. And so I was like, hey, he's just like, where are you? I was like, here. And he brought me a nice little care package. And it was, it's a purple PWHL hat. And then he brought me two pucks, and one of them is on the wall.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
So another techie friend of mine who actually works at Microsoft, he has a 3D printer and he printed out these it's shaped like a kraken, like a, and so you can put the puck inside of it. So I have it mounted to the wall. But he brought me a takeover tour one, and then he brought me um an inaugural Frost game puck. I was like, "Ah." So yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, so I need to go to Minnesota at some point and see one of their games in person. I'm trying to find one of my tweets that has the group photo because like,
I've got a question for everyone. What is your favorite hockey related memory or experience that you've been a part of?
I'm going last, so no.
That's a
I
good.
have a really hard time choosing between the very first Pittsburgh meetup I did with BGHC before I even became a volunteer. My best friend and I went, or the Toronto meetup we did, the first Toronto meetup we did. That's both of those are so high up there for me. I don't know if I can choose. It's like choosing a favorite child. Um, but the first Pittsburgh trip is so important just because it's the first time I met Fatu in person. And like at that point, neither one of us were on the board. We had Joe Splitz's fans who followed each other on Twitter. Go figure. Um, and then, meeting Renee in person for the first time and like everybody that kind of became some of the core people for BGHC volunteers and like future board members were all like some of us were on that trip just kind of like to start. But then like the Toronto trip was like first time I met Taylor in person. Like all of these things are so good. And I'm just like so it's gonna be one of those two. There's never a bad time when we all get together, but those are like big trips. We did so many things. We were so much in the community and it wasn't just about the game, it was about like everybody getting together. So it's gotta be one of those two. I can't choose. Don't make me.
Yeah, I would say Toronto also, just because we had the first panel of all Black women ever for hockey. Um, and Sarah Nurse just casually brought her gold medal.
That was amazing. I wasn't there, but those
And
And a
photos.
sock.
and we
It
were
was
so
in a sock, guys.
delicate with it. And she was like, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, yeah, you can hold it. Yeah, you can take pictures. So just that it was so accessible, going back to what we said earlier, and to see the look on everyone's faces when they were holding it and when they saw her in person, just how much fun that moment was. So yeah, I'd say Toronto too.
I can't pick one. If I had to pick one, I would probably say the latest, which was the press conference, and it's almost extended. And I feel like I'm talking about myself a lot because I don't mean to, but it's just weird because so when they announced, we've been doing this for like 5.5 years, right, as a campaign, and so when literally the first graphic that came out announcing the team was one that had the logo in the center and it had all of these tweets that people had done. And literally right below the logo, highlighted is mine
Wow.
that says we are ready. And I was like, oh, that's cool. you know? And then you get to the press conference and then watching all these little like snippets and videos afterwards, and I'm in it with other people. So I feel like it's been like this extent. Like I think people think I'm a part of it. Like I'm officially in the thing. I'm like, no, I was just there. I'm glad that I'm being showcased as part of the fandom and stuff. So I'm gonna have to say, just for that reason, that's been the most memorable because it's still kind of happening. And I'm getting people I haven't heard from in a while going, is this you? I was like, we saw you on the news. We saw you in this video. And I was like, oh my God, that is me. So I was like, and that they're using those images. So it's just been really fun as part of that. But I would also say, I'm going to say my first Kraken game. Because as we've kind of alluded to through the course of this conversation, their front office doesn't look like other front offices. So seeing all these women and women of color and people of color in these very kind of front office, very visible roles, and I was like, even our announcers with JT and
Yeah.
Everett, and I'm just like, wow. But also with the legend John Forsland, love him. But it's I was like, this is just I didn't experience this in Detroit. I didn't experience this in Silicon Valley, but to see it and it's real and it didn't feel weird. I mean, it felt weird because I'd never seen it before, but to consistently see that it hasn't changed either, at least for the worse, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I would say those two things kind of bookended, right? Kind of my first experience with professional hockey in Seattle, and now this latest one seem to be very different, but also very similar. And that's been really, really good. It's been a great. I'm starting to put together like a video montage of all of my selfies and stuff over the past, 4.5 years or 5.5 years now with the campaign, and kind of seeing this progression. I was just like, I was a part. I was through this. This is like real. This happened, and it didn't happen somewhere else. It happened here. So that's been really cool. And again, and seeing more women and girls go, hey, I want to be a part of that. I want to go to experience that too. I've never been to a hockey game, but at least you're like, you have all kinds of fun. I put a link in the chat to my last tweet from our last home game. And it's like, why do you always think you're having fun? And I'm like, because we do. Even when we lose. It's like it's just fun. And I'm gonna run into people, and it's great. And I think people don't think about that. Oh, I'm gonna sit in this cold arena. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Rochelle. So yeah, it's that kind of thing. It's just different. So Dan, I thought you'd been out here already. Okay, yeah, you had to come to the first. When we get that first, when we find the inaugural game date, we're making this happen.
Yeah.
We're making this happen.
Alicia, with everyone.
Taylor, you
Oh, I'm
coming with
there.
us?
I'm
You
there.
coming through?
I accept. With everyone spotting you or your tweet in the announcement, is that like the first like this you, but it's positive? Because usually when someone's like this you, you're like, oh God. But everyone this
Right?
you, like,
No, right? Wait.
it is me. It
If
was
it's if it's sports related now, I don't think that way. I think in everything else with someone like this, you're like, who asking? Is it, are you Alicia? I'm like, who? Why? What's why are you asking? That part of me will never go away. That's just Detroit born and raised. It's like I ain't confirming nothing until I know what you asking about. I need to know. But no, it's still a hoot and a half to be associated with sports and hockey in general in Seattle. But again, I think it's just brought in so many more people. And go, oh, okay, if she's in it, I can be in that too. Okay, all right. This is accessible. I can get in there. And they know I'm not someone that's gonna fight to be in something either. So I'm like, if she's having fun, it must be cool. So come on in. Now I'm gonna bring you all in.
You know, I don't think this is well, it's one of my favorite hockey memories, but it's not my favorite. But the minority league, we got credentialed for Four Nations. And so like going to that was amazing. Like I took time off from work because like the podcast is outside of my day job, and was there for I went to some of the games in Boston, and um like really zeroed in on making connections with other minority journalists or women journalists. And so having the space to do that and meet those types of journalists and make those connections was like that was incredible. And to get to know the sort of like more about the work that they're doing, because I met people whose work that I had read and follow, but like met a lot of new people and some international journalists as well. Like that was really cool, and it like I feel like building that sort of community and supporting each other's work, like that's really important. So, yeah, I mean, like in addition to just having the opportunity to interview players and like go to the post game locker room scrums, like that was very cool too. But like a big part of that being such a good experience was the chance to meet other minority journalists and other women journalists.
Can I ask you a follow-up question? How has it been with your podcast? What kind of responses are you getting from people um, that you're able to kind of highlight in bringing these types of sports to and centering, these marginalized voices?
It's been like really positive. I think people, um, like we've had people say to us that they're really, um, like there needed to be this space in hockey to talk about these stories, and people have been grateful to like have that time to come on our podcast and talk about like some of the issues in hockey, not just in pro hockey but like in all levels of hockey, but also some of the really great things. And like we've been able to help people make connections too, and have had like some professional players. Like we've interviewed pro players and coaches, and we've had, in addition to that, like some players have reached out to us through social media or other ways, and just said that like they really appreciate what we're doing. So it's really nice to have that sort of response.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that like it's great also to be part of the community that's out there talking about like women in sports or minorities in sports, and to be able to contribute to that. And I like this. It's how Minashi and I learned about Black Girl Hockey Club. So like having that connection has been amazing. And yeah,
Thank you for doing it.
thanks. It's yeah, we're hoping to get like we've been trying to get Sarah Nurse on the podcast. It just hasn't worked out timing wise, but um yeah, hopefully soon, because yeah, that would be amazing. Um
Maybe if you come to Ottawa for the draft.
oh, yeah. Wait, when is that?
June 24th. It's a Tuesday.
Oh, okay, yeah, not happening. I would love that. But
A
yeah.
couple of days off. Just going out to Ottawa. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
I need some friends. I need to know some people there. Like, let's walk around. Like, hi.
Oh, I mean, like, I'm sure that's going to be so much fun.
Fun. All right, we're in the third period. It's still 0-0. What if it goes into 4 overtimes again just to try to get one goal?
Just someone needs to get a bounce here because this is too much not scoring.
Anastasia, go to bed, girl.
I can only hang so long.
I feel you.
I'm gonna have
I feel
to
you.
tap out. But I'm hoping at this point. I think
Who's everyone picking to win this game? Looks like it's going to be one goal wins it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
both goalies are so good. It's really
Yeah.
it's
I
gonna
know, right?
probably be like a freak bounce or like something. I don't know.
I'm gonna go Ottawa
All right.
because they're
I'm
top of mind.
I'm thinking Ottawa too. They're at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Safer,
think
I'm going to Ottawa.
but I don't
Maybe
know.
that's what they were waiting for us to pick. So then they can do the opposite, maybe. Like, oh, you believe in us. Ding. Like,
The fact that the shots are even, at least where I'm in at the feed right now, and it's
yeah.
in the third,
It's
it's just
Yeah.
like, oh no,
toe to
oh
toe.
no.
It's like
Is it 19-19 on yours?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
like whose ever goalie gets tired faster, I guess, at this point.
I think all these players are just dreading having to play an overtime period because I'm sure that they are so sore from the other game.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no way they recovered within a couple days.
No.
Oh.
Some of these players were on the ice for 50 minutes.
I was looking at those stats.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't think there's enough mustard packets to revive anyone from
The
50 minutes.
PWHL, like they
That's
probably ran out. Like the teams probably like busted through their budget for those.
I
They
will
gotta
say
get.
I like Montreal's home jerseys better.
I do
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
If I'm going to be girly about this whole thing, I like the home sweater better.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
like
do
that
think there needs to be
dark
like a
red.
mustard sponsorship though
Right?
going forward. Like some mustard company got to sponsor them. This is the picture itself is just too iconic. Like, come on.
Yeah.
They could do like a print ad where it's just like an Ottawa jersey with like a mustard stain across it, and it's something about like
I'm,
4
tap-
overtime
I'm
periods.
tapping back into Kendrick Lamar. I think they need to tap him for a commercial for the finals and have him going, mustard.
Is there a Canadian mustard brand?
French's.
French's is Canadian?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, they should jump on that.
Wait, let me Google foo. Hold on. It is an American brand.
French's?
French's is an American brand of prepared mustards.
You know which one's
Hmm.
Canadian? Yeah.
All right, now I'm gonna look up
Interesting.
Canadian mustard. Susie's?
Susie's? They're small.
Susie's organic mustard, Coslicks,
Something tells me they're too small to sponsor a pro
KLZ.
hockey league.
KLZLIK. Canadian mustard since 1948.
Wow. I've never tasted it.
That's a fact I didn't think I'd learn on this call today.
Well, Coslicks is all over the place when I put in Canadian mustard, so maybe it's just fancy.
They have maple mustard.
Ooh.
Classic
That's where
Dijon.
I draw the line.
That sounds
Triple. Oh, they have a
good.
triple
I don't
crunch
know.
mustard.
That's
spicy.
like a honey mustard, kind of.
Yeah.
No sweet mustards for Taylor?
She's like, no.
Man. That could be like, you know how, well, I don't know if this occurs, but like, you know how people put hot honey on everything now?
Yeah.
Why?
Maple mustard. I don't know.
Why?
Could be a thing.
Why? No.
She said no.
Oh. Yeah. Coslicks and what was this other one? Coslicks used to be all over the place. Engelhofer? Coleman's? I'm not saying the other one because it can go into a different place, but yeah. French's is American.
So Alicia, if you could pick one player in the league to come to your team in the expansion draft, who would it be?
Maddie.
Or top three, like the original 6 were able to pick.
Oh gosh. Why you gotta put me on the spot like that? I mean, my first instinct is Maddie, because like I said, I'm a goalie girl. So I'm like looking at all the goalies.
And I think Minnesota will only be able to protect one of the 2 goalies. So
Right.
yeah.
So I have my work cut out for me at the draft.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start infiltrating, planting some seeds. The mustard seeds.
Oh no.
That caffeine is kicking in.
Shout out to the former Riveters team.
That's right.
Yeah.
Miss them.
You can do it.
Well, I'm really sorry, guys, but I gotta go.
Oh, you go. Thank
Yeah,
you, East
this was so
Coaster.
much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Denali.
and hope
I'll
to
be
talk to
listening
you
to
guys
your
again.
next podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I'm going to look out for like your thoughts on the draft.
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Good night.
All right, 11 minutes and 33 seconds.
Gotta get a goal in the next couple minutes here.
Do it. Come on, y'all. Come on. You can do it.
Oh, here we go. Oh. Oh!
Oh,
I don't know if we're on the same time, but
yeah.
made it happen.
Look,
Wow.
Ooh.
Ottawa.
Right, y'all called it with Ottawa. Looking good for them. Who was that?
McMahon.
Oh yeah. Oh wow, look at
Oh,
that stadium.
there's the bell. There's the cowbell there.
Oh, God. I'm afraid to turn on the sound. I don't want anything to so like.
Am I allowed to bring my mini bell
Yeah.
to Seattle?
Yeah, you can. It is.
All right.
Well, I don't know if you can get it through the door, but you can bring it.
Oh, yep. That's what was
Yeah.
going to be.
Beautiful.
Clean up rebound.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
I'm sure that crowd is fired up right now.
Yeah. They were just probably too like, no overtime. We gotta go to work tomorrow.
Let's not
Yeah.
speak too soon. There's still a good 10 minutes, right? Anything could happen.
All the concession stands were brewing new pots of coffee.
Right.
Yeah. I would love if I would have loved if New York went with Riveters.
I know.
Right?
I actually was really disappointed.
Yeah.
That would have been so cool. I'm still trying to get my hands on that like custom Black Riveter jersey somewhere. I think Fatu said she has one, but never got one and would love for that. But
I wonder if the Sirens would consider
I
changing their
know.
name.
You're like, can we take it? I'm gonna tell
Can
you
we barter?
now,
Like,
Yeah,
can we,
there are
trade.
some people that
we'll
are
take the
deeply
Sirens.
invested in the wee woo.
Yeah.
It is pretty. It is
We'll give
pretty.
you Riveters.
Wee woo.
We'll
But I
send over all the stuff over here, and then we'll take Sirens, and then it'll all be just a perfect
I'd
thing.
support it. I'd support a shift to the Riveters, and we would
Maybe have like a Black Rosy night and make like a
yes,
yeah.
yes. I feel like
I think there's so much opportunity for the PWHL to do cool stuff with like third jerseys.
Yes.
I mean, they're breaking the rules with things like the jailbreak rule.
Mhm.
I think they should do the same. Like the NBA seems to do a lot of stuff with like City Connect jerseys, and I'd love to see them bring back something like a Riveters jersey, a throwback that
That'd be great.
recognizes the teams that came before. I'd love to see Toronto do kind of like an Indigenous jersey where they pair with an Indigenous artist. There's I don't know, forget his name, but he creates all sorts of mock-ups, and any one of them would look so great. And I think the fandom would just support it and buy those
Yeah.
special jerseys for those nights. And I want to see them play in
Absolutely.
them. I want to
Yeah.
see them play in them. The NHL wastes all of these incredible designs that they have for like Asian Heritage Night and like
Oh, don't get me
Black
started.
History Month. Just like I don't, it seems like a loss in revenue. People would buy these jerseys.
I don't understand why they don't mass produce them. And in Seattle we do them, right? But it's only they're part of an auction as a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't afford it. Most of my friends can't afford it because they're the player worn ones. So then when you get them that night, so it's like, oh, I get it right now.
Right.
And I experimented with how the San Jose Sharks does theirs. So I ordered one of theirs for Pride Night,
Mhm.
and you could get it customized.
That's cool.
And it was a fraction of the cost. It only cost a couple of hundred versus a couple of thousand that would happen up here. But still, it was more of, you're creating these nights to bring people in for the
Mhm.
first time, but then they can't afford the thing to take with them to show the celebration of the heritage. So I'm hoping they get to some point, and I hope the PWHL can set the bar for that too, and say we're going to create these as accessible financially to those around it. So Anastasia, I have a thought.
Oh.
We should co-sponsor a petition.
Let's swap or like
Yes.
a truce between
True. So
New
we
York
have
and
the New
Seattle.
York person and the Seattle person, and we're like, look, we're just saying
Okay.
this would
All
be
right.
advantageous for
I
all of us.
And to be fair, I think, the Sirens have had a tough time out here
So
and
a fresh name might
right? I
help
was like
her.
a rebrand and like a calling back to like the history and recognizing that could
And say,
be
I'm gonna put that on Twitter. You think I'm playing? I would be
okay.
like,
Oh, I'm in. I'm bought in. You've
I'm like,
convinced
we are
me.
gonna do this.
You've
I'm gonna make
convinced
the
me.
suggestion. Just get people talking about it. And if enough people say okay, I'm like,
Put
Anastasia,
it
let's
out
make this
there.
official.
I'm telling you, and if you can, if the key is if you can create a compelling
Yeah,
logo for Seattle that people love, then
I'm on it.
yeah,
I know people.
there,
I know people. I'm messaging Brian as soon as we're done here.
I
I'm
was
like,
gonna say,
just
I
go
think
out.
you
I'm
have
like,
people on this call who could probably create. I've seen
exactly, right?
nice
So
things come
we're
from
showing that
BGHC. You
you're
got
showing
some folks
cross
here.
cultural, cross
Yeah,
country. We're
yeah,
in this together. All
yes.
ships rise with this succeed.
I take it you'll also rebrand the Sirens. You won't have it won't be actual sirens. Like
No, no, no. Like I said,
people
those people
walking
that
around with the lights. You'll
I'm
have an
hoping some of
actual
my
siren.
Starbucks friends are listening right now. So like then we go, hey Starbucks, I think this makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
It fits the
can
Kraken
you
theme.
tell I worked in corporate philanthropy? That was
Mhm.
always talking to the corporate partners, like, this is why it makes sense for you to support our organization. And this is how it's like,
Yeah.
well, now it's out there. Now I'm gonna have to do it because
You put it out
video.
there. I will say one of the other cool things about the PWHL game here was seeing some of the local community businesses that they supported. And
Mhm.
so for which you don't or I don't see that for NHL games, right?
Yeah.
They had some really cool vendors come in. They had a lot of small businesses for the Black History Month game. Um, they had like small local family-owned businesses throughout the state come through. Uh,
Hmm.
for the Pride event, they had really cool local groups that they supported. So that was another thing that I had never seen before, at least at Prudential, seeing really cool local, smaller community organizations being supported by the PWHL, which I would love.
And there is such an opening and a need for that right now as well, because there's a lot of these groups now are losing funding and losing having even how to categorize themselves. I was talking with I put in the chat that I work for a nonprofit, and I was talking to another nonprofit exec person um, that works with a lot of volunteers.
Mhm.
And one of the things he was telling me was, one of the things that they had to do was take out pronouns in their email signatures now, or they would lose their fund. I'm like, of all the things in the world that we could be focused on trying to support and to fix and whatever, like this is where they want to spend their energy
Right.
and dictating things like this. It's like it's so why?
Yeah.
It's yeah. So so it's been very disheartening to see so many of my colleagues in other organizations, frankly mine, who are, struggling.
Yep.
Like who would have thought that they'd take away AmeriCorps of all things? It's like volunteerism at its finest. And I'm like,
Yeah. Yep.
so yeah. So
Oh,
with
that's
all those things
funny.
that's going on, no, someone wants is what we're alluding to before, right? You need that break. You need that
Right.
thing that you
Right.
can go to and go, not everything is horrible in this world right now.
Yes, that is, I think, why BGHE is so important right now. There's
Yeah.
no point in us trying to change any language, change
Mm-hmm.
anything, because we are what we are at its
Yes.
core. And um, if you don't support that those things are not going to change about
Yeah.
BGHE.
You
So,
don't have to be here. You can keep moving.
exactly, we're going to find the people
Just
to
like
support it, and if you don't support it,
that's your choice. Keep it
on your
moving.
way. Yes, as Rochelle said, bye. Yep.
Oh, all right, where are we at? 10 minutes left.
4-4.
Oh, that is.
Yeah, that looked like
Mhm.
a potential turning point there
Oh,
because they were looking at Laura Stacy for a check to the head, and looks like they just ruled that it was
oh,
just a 2-minute illegal
Ooh.
check.
Ooh.
Oh,
Ooh.
what we go do?
5-minute major would have changed the
Yeah,
outlook of this game.
Oh.
Oh,
here we go.
ooh, Poulin doing Poulin things.
Mm-hmm.
The Ottawa goalie has been incredible. I think Ottawa is going to have a really tough decision when they have to choose whether to protect Mashmeyer or Phillips.
I was
Because
gonna say
Phillips
who's goalie tonight? Is it Phillips?
is Phillips, yeah,
Yeah,
and she carried them into the playoffs, and
yeah.
she's been at least as good as Debian, who is one of the best in the world. So I don't know who you pick.
I'm like, who should we steal?
Vancouver and Seattle are gonna pick up some really good players. Some of them that haven't been used maybe properly, like
Yeah,
in offensive roles, because the league is so deep that you have these players that are young that
yeah.
haven't been given like first and second line minutes. They're
Hmm.
gonna go to Vancouver, Seattle, and they're gonna become stars there.
Yeah,
True.
that's the goal.
Yeah, so
And
that
it
should
can
be
definitely
exciting, I
happen.
think.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be crazy over here this time next year because of FIFA.
Oh, yeah.
Your
Two of the
Seattle's
cities is
hosting as
Seattle and
well.
Vancouver.
Oh yeah, and Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild how far apart some of the cities are that are hosting.
I think.
Ad break. Well, yeah, on a good day, you can get between Seattle and Vancouver in like 2 hours in the car.
That's it, eh?
Yeah.
Mm.
Less any delay at the border. It's like, that border time. But it's like I think there's actually 2 days next year where there's games on the same day or
Mm.
matches on the same day.
Have you seen a game in Vancouver? Have you seen a Seattle game in Vancouver?
Oh yes.
Yeah. What's that like going
I
there
like
as a
Rogers
Seattle
Arena.
fan? Yeah,
I like Rogers Arena. It's like I've been there for concerts before, so I wasn't sure what to expect from like I was trying to it was hard for me to kind of picture it as a hockey venue for whatever reason, just weird like that. No, it was a lot of fun. But again, compared to Climate Pledge, I kind of am biased. And I was like, it's just fun. I just like
See,
to
now
go.
the key to making that trip from Seattle to Vancouver, though, is to have friends in Bellingham and just go there and then just stick it with them for a night and then start up in the morning. And then that's when you do the border crossing. I know you could all do it in a day. Look for a
Yeah.
friend to go hang out with some friends in
Oh,
Bellingham.
absolutely.
And, because that's like a stone throw from the border right there.
Well, when I go to Ottawa next month, I'm actually flying out of Vancouver because I was like, I wanted a straight shot. I didn't want to, with everything
yeah.
that's been happening with air travel these days. I'm like, I don't want to miss a flight. I don't want to do this. I will drive the 2 hours up to Vancouver, knowing it's a direct flight. Not have to worry about missing anything. Not have to deal with our FAA. See what's going on. But I'm like, I think it's gonna be fun. Are we still 4-4?
Yeah.
Okay.
47 more seconds.
Come on, Ottawa. Dun, dun, dun. They heard me. Go on.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Is that a trip? Oh.
Turnover.
Mm.
Back the other way. There hasn't been a whole lot of open ice in this game.
No.
Seems like maybe it's opening up. Well, 4-on-4, there's more open ice now.
Yeah.
Looks like another penalty.
Mm.
Jenner's not happy, so I imagine she's going to the box.
Mm. Oh, and that was pool.
Oh,
Mm.
interesting. Jenner takes Poulin down.
Yeah.
It'll be
Not
interesting to see
happy.
who the,
Not
the
happy.
coaches are going to be
Mm-hmm.
for the new teams.
This is interesting.
Is
Each
is
31
Jessica
seconds
is
left.
Jessica Campbell still on the Kraken coaching staff?
Yes.
And they're gonna keep her on with the new coach.
I wouldn't, yes, but the way that it was worded, I kind of am hoping that, well, since it's a centralized ownership team, I guess the Kraken wouldn't have any thoughts about that. But I mean, I think the initial thought where people were like, okay, when they announced that Disco Dan was gone,
Yeah.
they was like, but Jessica is being retained, but they
Okay.
didn't say retained as assistant coach.
So
Mm.
they might be interviewing her for head.
So I would like, but we'll
That would be
see.
amazing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're smart enough not to let her go anywhere.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And she's been great for the game and great for the city, to be honest.
Mm. Oh,
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Oh, what a save.
Phillips is working.
Where Montreal just keeps running into these like brick walls in playoffs.
all right, let's see.
And I think it underscores how competitive they are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one good thing with expansion too is that it should thin the league out a little bit, which I think is going to be better for scoring.
Yeah.
'Cause I think scoring's bit of an issue at times, and I think it's always just more exciting to have more goals when you go to a game.
Oh, absolutely.
Although the 2026 draft class
Mm-hmm.
is supposed to be incredible. Like two rounds of players that most years would go in the top three.
Yeah.
So,
Mm. Ooh.
oof,
I think more goals too. I mean, from a business perspective, is good for business
yeah,
and for fans. Fans will come and spend money
Mm-hmm.
and continue to do so. They know they're going to get a good game. But if it's always a shutout or they're on a losing streak, it's like, I'm going this
goals
much again.
Yeah.
goals make for good Instagram reels. 0-0
Absolutely.
ties don't do a lot for social media.
Oh, 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 oh.
That is true.
They're putting the heat on though. They're keeping it on them. It sounds like something happened in the stands.
This arena that they're playing in is a weird one. I've never been in it, but I've been in there's a football stadium where the Canadian Football League team plays. I
Mhm.
think it was like Lansdowne Park. And this is underground. It's
Huh.
like under the football field.
Oh, that's weird. Ooh.
But apparently they're one of the louder fan bases in the league. Yeah, this game's opening up a bit.
Yeah, Montreal too.
Montreal's gonna have to push now.
Don't let them score, Ottawa.
They're fighting.
I need to see a good fight.
I'm not giving up. There was a bit of a tussle.
Knock, knock.
Do we want to think ahead to Toronto, Minnesota also, and how that series might look?
Well, I want Minnesota to win.
Uh, it's been a hard series to watch because I think they've just got our number, and they have for most of the games we played against them.
Mhm.
I don't know what it is. I think there's some coaching changes that they need to make to the way that we play Minnesota that they're not. I don't know. When Montreal had the choice of what team to pick, I was like, please pick Minnesota. I did not want to play Minnesota. Minnesota is just a roster full of playoff performers. Like
Uh,
they show up and they're chippy and they play hard.
all right, we got 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes.
Oh,
Did it go in? No.
you're 50.
Tick, tick.
Anastasia, what do you think New York can do to improve attendance? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know. So I think it's really tricky because I think they're in a weird spot as a New York team that's playing in New Jersey.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
a little weird, and I don't know if like part of me is like become a Jersey team and try to tap into more of that fan base, but I don't think that's the answer. Um, I don't know. I think um I'm always like so curious about people that go to games and like how they came to them. There's definitely a lot of like former Riveters fans that are coming back, but I've also seen um newer folks, and I think I would love to see especially the NHL really support them a lot more and pushing some of their fan base over.
I was
Um
wondering about that. Do you
yeah,
think do you think
yeah.
it's complicated because like it's a New York team, so the Rangers are not going to send fans to go to the Prudential Center and
Honestly, that's a big thing that
yeah,
because I mean well, I mean they'll come to Prudential Center to see the Rangers play, but I feel like I haven't actually seen a lot of promotion. I'm not in New York, but when I am, I haven't seen a ton of promotion of the PWHL
yeah.
um on the Devils, Rangers or Islanders front, and I would love to see that too. I would love to see them step up. I have been happy to see, the Devils start to support more. Um, and again, it was so cool to go to the probably one of my more recent favorite hockey moments is the BGHC meetup we did, one for Sirens game and one for a Devils game, and there were like folks that came that were like, I've never been to a hockey game. I saw
Mhm.
BGHC post this, and that just made me like so incredibly happy because they're like, I've always been curious and I've always wanted to go. But I just never felt like I had a group of people I could go with. And that was so cool to see people just meet up in the lobby, start chatting, and just immediately connect with folks that they literally had never met before. Um, so I think people are out there. I think we're not getting to them. And so I hope that it is obviously like hockey culture here is a little different too. And so I
Yeah.
think you do need to also tap into um, those NHL fan bases as
How
well.
teams out there that are New York actually play in New Jersey? Because isn't it the same thing with like the Jets or the Giants or one of?
Yeah, I actually that's weird because
Yeah.
the Jets and the Giants um
Oh, they were so close.
both play here. Oh, oh.
It hit the bar.
Yeah. I hit the post. Oh man.
Oh, here we go.
They're trying though. They
Another
got a
save.
minute and 34.
Yeah, they had an empty. Yeah, they had an empty net with Montreal. Like, oh,
Wow. Oh, that's so cool to see the fans though.
yeah.
I think New York, like LA,
Look at
though,
that.
is
It's
like
like,
even when we went to the Bad Boys
bam.
series out here, it was the attendance wasn't as much because there's so many sports. Like we have two LA like hockey teams. We have two basketball teams. We have two
Yeah. Yeah, why is
baseball
LA
teams.
so
So it's like
greedy?
we're kind of
Why is
we're
LA so
spoiled for choice.
greedy?
There's also a lot of us here, so
I'm
there's
just saying,
that.
it's
But because there's
greedy.
not like a central team,
Yeah.
like Seattle's got like the central teams. There's not like multiple to
Yeah.
choose from. So like I remember when I lived there when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, and like we got like catered lunch because they won the Super Bowl, and I was just very much like, what? It was very. I was like, the Dodgers won, the Angels won like not too long before that, and I was like, and nothing, like none of that happened. And I actually worked across from Angel Stadium at one point, and like they didn't care, but like my office got a full catered lunch, and we wore jeans all week, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, because we did not get casual Fridays at that place. We got to wear jeans all week. People were ecstatic.
Nice. Yeah, I also would love to see more collabs with other women's teams. Like Fatu and I always saying like Liberty games out here. Oh my
Yeah.
God, so fun.
That would be
I
major.
would love to see some collabs going
Because I
on.
know we're going to do that here. I already know it's going to be built in.
Yeah, I do think it feels more fractured over here. It's weird, like across different leagues and sports. It feels
Do
less like about
fans
the city, more
do
about the
fans travel from New York to New Jersey
they do.
to
They
see the
definitely
games?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely do. Um, for sure. There's a lot of New Yorkers that come over. And there's a train, so it's super easy.
Yeah.
It's actually easier to get to New Jersey than it is most
Yeah, you
places
guys have
in New
a
York.
better commuter system.
So it's funny because it's like if you like when they were in Long Island, it's so hard to get out there, and that's part of the challenge. And so now
Yeah.
it's like a really accessible stadium. So it just
All right. 45 seconds.
oh, I think y'all called it.
Oh,
How are they not scored on an
here
empty
we
net?
go. Oh, of
Ooh,
course, Poulin.
yeah.
Now they're just playing.
27. Here we
Eh.
go.
Oh,
That's it.
oh,
Oh,
come on. You got 15 seconds.
oh, they just gotta control it. Oh,
I swear, if they score, they earned
Right,
it.
can
I'm
you
sorry.
imagine?
2,
oh, hip almost went
1.
in. Oh,
Wow.
amazing.
Wow.
Look at those fans and the
That was
towels.
Look at the
crazy.
stadium. I gotta turn the sound on for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unmute.
Oh, Montreal just keeps running into the
It
hottest
must be
goalies.
crazy in there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the closed caption just says like ah
Cheering and applause.
yeah.
All right, gang, thank you so much. This has been fun watching the game with you and chatting and getting to know you. I will see you
Likewise.
in Seattle
Yes.
for the inaugural game. We're gonna make it
Seattle.
happen, and I'm gonna start that petition. I'm
Okay.
gonna start the thought of getting that petition going. I'm putting it on social. I'm gonna see what happens.
I'm ready to sign.
I'm gonna
Okay.
look
Ready to
out
sign.
for
Let's
it.
go.
I'm
I'll
gonna look
sign.
out for it.
Yeah.
We got work. Okay, guys, take care.
Bye,
All
y'all.
right. Bye, everyone.